We're going to do what we do every day, break down the latest Bitcoin TA, aka astrology for men, the latest from the former PayPal president regarding Lightning Network, saying every corporation in the world is going to be using it. We'll also be discussing the Bitcoin volatility, as well as a little comeback and eventually capturing this six-figure milestone we have been forecasting for a very long time now, as well as the latest from our Cuban advocating for the CFTC to regulate all crypto ahead of election day, as well as breaking news, JPMorgan Chase, the largest bank in the States, reports holding shares of several spot Bitcoin ETFs. Go figure, Jamie Dimon. Also, Jack Dorsey predicts Bitcoin to skyrocket to at least $1 million by this particular date. I'll be breaking down this report, as well as the latest from the Giga Chad himself, Mike Saylor. He says Bitcoin is the only crypto asset that will ever get the SEC approval for the ETFs. He also makes some very bullish price predictions. I'm going to be sharing his latest insights with the Bitcoin halving. All this, plus so much more, fam, in today's show. If you're new to the channel, very important to smash that subscribe button to receive daily premium crypto news alerts every day, 7 days a week, just like this. Also pump the like. It helps pump the stream and is always greatly appreciated. And it's free to help support the show. That's all you got to do. Now, today is pod episode number 1636. I'm your host, JV. It's May 11th, 2024, and I'm broadcasting to you live from our home office here in Puerto Rico. Let's kick it off with our market watch as we do each and every day. Thank God, 60 held strong as a support yesterday. Today we're back in the green, but very modestly, trading back above 61,200 at the time of this live stream. We have Ether up about 0.75%, maintaining just above 2,900, while Solana, Cardano, and AVAX are all correcting and in the red. And checking out coinmarketcap.com. Let's check out the market. You can see we're sitting at 2.26 trillion as far as market cap, with 42 billion in volume for the past 24 hours. Bitcoin dominance 53.2%, and the Ether dominance, I believe this is the lowest it's been in years, 15.5%. Now, what are your thoughts? Do you think the ETH dominance will continue declining, or do you think it'll reverse and start going back up? I want to know your thoughts on the ETH dominance, but also Bitcoin dominance is sitting modestly also at 53.2%. So do you think that will likely climb for this bull run this year? Or do you think it'll drop and more market share will go to potentially Ethereum and the alts? Let me know your thoughts and theories. And checking out the top gainers for the past 24 hours, we got WorldCoin, Immutable, and Boom. Below that, we got WIF, Ordi, and Stark. Wow, a lot of these meme coins, yo. Always going crazy. But anyways, the majority of the market is correcting in the red. Safe to say, yeah, as far as altcoins are concerned. And checking out the crypto bubbles on the daily. Oh, I take that back. According to this overall chart, it's pretty even, but I'd probably say 60% are actually in the green. And zooming out on the monthly, oh my God. Safe to say 90+% wrecked and in the red. And checking out the crypto greed and fear index, we're back down to neutral, 53. Yesterday, 66 in greed. Last week, 67, and last month, 76 in extreme greed. And typically, this is a pretty accurate indicator. The higher this number goes, the more likely of a pullback, and vice versa. The lower the number goes, the more likely of a pump. So let's move on to our technical analysis, aka astrology for men, yo. The headline reads, Bitcoin halving danger zone. Has 2 days left with the Bitcoin price retesting 60,000. So will we maintain the danger zone? Let me know. Here you're looking at the 1 hour chart. Bitcoin challenge 60 G's. And speaking of 60 G's, 60 G's, baby! You already know. Data from TradingView showed intraday price lows of 60,190 on Bitstamp, and then a sudden drop foiled attempts to hold levels around 63, with explanations mixed as to the impetus behind it. Quoting SKU Analytics, monthly open has been swept again as well. Monthly buyers taken out. If the bulls want higher and want to break this downtrend, it's here, in my opinion. He also says specifically the key area for the bulls to do something is 60,800 to 61,000. Also happens to be the range low, and that's precisely where we're at right now at around that 61,000 level. So let's do something, bulls. By that dip, you already know Saylor's are going to be making an announcement. We just acquired 10 billion more Bitcoins. But yo, JV, I thought there could ever be 21 million. But you don't know Michael Saylor. You don't know what he's capable of, dog. I digress. We also have material indicators speculating that some institutional entity may not want to see Bitcoin break out over the weekend. Why is that? Because the markets are closed and they're going to have to pay higher prices when markets open to cover, the need for them to buy it for their clients. So of course, the institutions prefer lower Bitcoin price actions. That's something we got to consider as well. The analyst also says, I won't be the least bit surprised if the seawall moves lower to push the price down. I also won't be surprised if we see a roof pull after the W candle closes on Sunday, referring to the weekly candle close tomorrow. And we also have Rec Capital, who shared some insights as well, quoting him here. Bitcoin indeed downside wicked below the reaccumulation range low, just like in 2016. Thus, price-wise, the post-halving danger zone purple has been satisfied, and you can see the purple here in the chart. He also wrote, time-wise, however, the danger zone officially ends in 2 days. So there you have it. Let me know if you agree or disagree with some of these analysts. Also, breaking news just in, former PayPal president and Lightspark CEO David Marcus says every corporation in the world will end up using Bitcoin Lightning to settle transactions. Very powerful and bold prediction. That would mean taking over all the current payment rails where merchants, what do they charge? 1.9%, maybe 2%, potentially more or less. Well, why wouldn't they want to use Bitcoin Lightning Network where the transaction is the settlement? And using the layer 2, it's going to be instantaneous and virtually free. Like it could be pennies. You know what I mean? So there'd be no comparison. It would save the businesses a fortune in processing fees from all the legacy payment rails, the Visas, the MasterCards, Discover, etc. So I love it. And I would agree. I think Bitcoin's slowly taking over the world here personally. Now let's discuss this 100,000 target and some Bitcoin volatility going down in the markets and what's happening right here. Bitcoin's volatility in the annual time frame dropped below that of tech stocks, Tesla, Meta, and Nvidia, signaling its growth towards becoming a more mature and stable asset class. In fact, more stable than many of the S&P 500 stocks. Go figure. So as of May 11th, Bitcoin's 1-year realized volatility, which represents the standard deviation of returns from the mean return of the market, was around 45%. In comparison, the annualized realized volatility of a magnificent 7 stocks, such as Tesla, Meta, and Nvidia, were over 50%. You can see the chart here. You can see Apple, Microsoft, Google, then Amazon, then Bitcoin. The only ones above as far as more volatility would be Meta, Nvidia, and Tesla, but Bitcoin slowly approaching. So Bitcoin has shown relatively lower volatility compared to 33 of the roughly 500 companies of the S&P, and Fidelity Investments noted in its latest report, Bitcoin was actually less volatile than 92 of the S&P stocks in October 2023 when using the 90-day realized historical volatility figures. Some of these names are also large cap and mega cap stocks. And you can see that here. You can see the arrow pointing to where Bitcoin is at in comparison to the rest of the S&P. Now, Bitcoin's annualized volatility is in its nascent years was over 200%, which is a trend typical amongst the newer asset classes, with higher capital inflows as well. This is because these inflows represented a smaller proportion of the total capital base. Consequently, new investments are less likely to significantly influence market prices or the decisions of marginal buyers and sellers, as illustrated in Bitcoin's long-term volatility chart, which you can see here on your screen. This is Bitcoin's realized volatility versus the market cap. In the orange, you can see the Bitcoin market cap, and in the blue is the Bitcoin realized volatility. Now, Bitcoin's recent volatility patterns closely resemble gold in its early trading years. And like gold, Bitcoin undergone a period of price discovery marked initially by high volatility, which gradually subsides as the market matures. Gold prices surged with inflation after its decoupling from the US dollar in 1971 and the legalization of its private ownership in 1974. As a result, the precious metals volatility reached over 80 during the early 1970s, almost twice that of Bitcoin in April of this year. However, as gold became an established asset class with more of a stable price range, its volatility decreased instead of deceased. This similarity suggests that, like gold, Bitcoin is transitioning towards a more stabilized asset class as it becomes better integrated into the broader financial landscape. Now, quoting Fidelity again, Bitcoin was nearly half as volatile in 2024 at 60,000 when compared with 2021. When putting this all together, a thesis pointing towards a growing acceptance of Bitcoin due to potential maturation begins to emerge. Now let's discuss the prospects of Bitcoin doing a major price jump to that six-figure price. Maybe it'll be the ETFs and the FOMO institutionally going on right now that pushes Bitcoin to that six-figure price, which also set off the run that we have witnessed since the start of the year when the ETFs officially went live. I want to know your thoughts on that. Quoting Scott Melker, the massive institutional flood of money that will drive Bitcoin to the all-time highs, referring to the massive institutional money. Melker expects the Bitcoin price to rise to 100 to 150,000 in that range due to the anticipated ETF inflows, which we just discussed. So let me know your thoughts, fam. When can you see six figures occurring within the Bitcoin price action? Holla in the chat. Next story of the day, we're going to be discussing some regulation. The headline reads, Mark Cuban advocates for the CFTC to regulate all crypto ahead of the U.S. election day, which we know is fast approaching us here in the States. Now, the billionaire pushed for the CFTC, which stands for the United States Commodity Futures Trading Commission, to regulate all of cryptocurrency, along with a final plea to the U.S. Congress to offer clarity for the crypto industry before the 2024 election, as we know, again, is about to kick off here in the States. Cuban believes such clarity can help secure another presidential term for Biden. Oh, that's disgusting. Man, I've never liked Cuban, just FYI, just got to throw it out there. But quoting him here, you could solve this problem for Biden by passing legislation that defines registration that is specific to the crypto industry, just as other industries have registration that is defined for them. Now, I guess he doesn't recognize who Biden truly is and the fact he will never be pro-crypto no matter what, because the puppet masters are anti-Bitcoin. And if you guys don't know that, I know. He further claimed that if Biden isn't reelected for another presidential term, the U.S. SEC chairman, Gensler, known for his tough anti-crypto stance, may be held responsible, as crypto voters will be heard this election. And as you know, just the other day, we had Trump come out and get the entire support from the crypto community by saying, I think crypto is great. Vote Trump if you like crypto. And he said, ultimately, vote Biden if you don't like crypto. I don't know if he said that per se, but nonetheless, that was me paraphrasing. Quoting Cuban, if Joe Biden loses, there's a good chance you'll be able to thank Gensler and the New York SEC. And he also said crypto is a mainstay with younger and independent voters. Gensler has not protected a single investor against fraud. And he kind of makes a point there. I don't think they've protected anyone. They didn't even protect anyone from the largest fraud in human history as far as finance is concerned, and that was Bankman-Fried with FTX. They didn't protect anyone from Terra Luna. Meanwhile, they shook down all the exchanges, including some of the good actors, and ultimately got money out of them. And so Cuban echoed the argument that has been heard by other leaders of the community, namely that Gensler has made it nearly impossible for the legitimate crypto companies to operate within the U.S., obviously, but that's all by design. That's not just coincidence or, oh my God, they just don't know what they're doing. No, don't give them that benefit, fam. In 2023 alone, 46 enforcement actions were taken against crypto firms. Oh my God. So as Ryan shares here, the SEC is now suing Kraken, Coinbase, Uniswap, MetaMask, and Robinhood for the crime of helping regular Americans access crypto. I couldn't agree more. And you got to recognize what these three-letter organizations are really there for. Anything they claim they're there for, it's typically the polar opposite. Yeah, I mean, but this is an entertainment-based show only. That's just JV's opinion. I mean, what do I know, really? You know what I mean? But anyways, this is what these other people are saying now. Meanwhile, CFTC Chairman Rostin believes there will be another cycle of enforcement actions within the industry in the next 6 to 18 months. Well, of course, there just is ongoing enforcement actions, which seem to never end. But anyways, family, I want to know your thoughts on some of that. Now, are you voting this presidential election? Did Trump steal your heart with his recent speech saying, yo, vote Trump if you're pro-crypto? Are you going to vote independent, RFK? Are you going to vote the B guy, the FJB? Let me know. Let's dive into the latest hypocrite. That's the bank JPMorgan Chase. I say hypocrite because their CEO, Jamie Dimon, loves bashing Bitcoin and going on spokes tours on news, different shows talking about how Bitcoin is like the Antichrist. But we just discovered JPMorgan holds shares of several spot Bitcoin ETFs. So yes, they're hypocrites. And they are the largest bank in the States, just FYI. They have ETF shares held with Grayscale, ProShares, Bitwise, BlackRock, and Fidelity. We know BlackRock, the largest one in the world. In a May 10th filing with the U.S. SEC, Chase reported it held roughly $760,000 worth of shares of ProShares, BlackRock, which is their product IBIT, as well as Fidelity's Wise Origin Bitcoin Fund, also GBTC and the Bitwise Bitcoin ETF. So they're pretty, what was I going to say? Spread out. They have shares in them all. And in addition, the bank reported 25,000 shares worth roughly 47,000 in Bitcoin Depot. Interesting. A crypto ATM provider. The SEC filing came the same day as Wells Fargo reported exposure to Grayscale and ProShares for their ETFs and its holdings and Bitcoin Depot. And also, as I shared recently, Susquehanna International Group also reported May 7th it purchased more than $1 billion worth of shares of crypto spot ETFs in the first quarter of 2024. JPMorgan Chase, the largest bank in the States with assets, controls $2.6 trillion. The SEC added that observers should not assume that the info provided by the financial firm was accurate and complete. Yeah, my disclosure, I would say, based upon how many times they got to pay billion-dollar fines and multi-hundred million-dollar fines for breaking the law, I'd say anything provided by JPMorgan Chase is probably not accurate or complete, in my opinion. But anyways, the SEC approved the listing of the ETFs. We know that was back on January 11th. Many experts expect the commission to decide on the spot Ether ETFs by May 23rd, in a couple of weeks, with an application from asset manager Van Eck reaching its final deadline. So there you have it. Now, do you think Gensler will likely approve an Ethereum ETF, or do you agree with Mike Saylor, which we'll dive into later on the show? He says the only ETF that will ever get approved by the SEC is Bitcoin. All right, yo, let's dive into our next story of the day, shall we? Pump the likes to pump the stream. Sat Stacking Saturday. Let's go. So yeah, here's the $1 million prediction from Jack Dorsey. He says Bitcoin will skyrocket to at least the milli by 2030. Let's break it down. Billionaire and tech entrepreneur Jack Dorsey expects big things for Bitcoin in the next 6 years. In a new interview with Pirate Wires, the Twitter co-founder predicts that Bitcoin will skyrocket to at least 1 million by the top of the decade. Quoting him here, I do think it hits that number and goes beyond, but I think the price is only interesting. The most amazing thing about Bitcoin, apart from the founding story, is anyone who works on it or gets paid in it or buys it for themselves. Everyone who puts any effort in it to make it better is making the entire ecosystem better, which makes price go up. It is a fascinating ecosystem and movement. More than anything else, it taught me a lot. Now, earlier in the month, Dorsey's fintech conglomerate, Block, announced it is investing 10% of its gross profit from Bitcoin products directly into Bitcoin itself. And at the end of March, and before the new Bitcoin purchase program was initiated, Block had already 8,038 BTC on its balance sheet. According to a document shared by the firm, the Bitcoin trove represented approximately 9% of the company's total cash equivalents, and marketable securities. So there you have it. I believe it's a given. I can totally see $1 million per Bitcoin by the year 2030. But what are your thoughts? Also, as we broke down deeper in yesterday's episode, because that was one of the topics, I think it was the main story of the day, I also discussed how Cathie Wood upped her price prediction by the year 2030 as well to 3.8 million per coin. That's based off a 5% allocation from the institutions. Meaning if the major institutions all invested 5% of their assets into Bitcoin, she foresees Bitcoin hitting 3.8 million. But I want to know your thoughts, fam. Let me know in the chat. Now for our featured story of the day, Mike Saylor. He says Bitcoin is the only crypto asset that will get the SEC approval for the ETFs. I'm also going to be sharing his latest thoughts and price actions. He believes Bitcoin can do 425x, sending Bitcoin to a mere $10 million per coin. I also want to get his insights on the Bitcoin halving. So let's dive right in, shall we? And welcome those just joining the stream. Happy Sat Stack and Saturday. Let's start with this tweet. I transcribed, and this is actually pinned on my X account right now because I can really appreciate the insights Saylor dropped here. I know we got close to 50,000 views on it. That's what's up. But anyways, quoting Mike Saylor, at the end of the day, you can tell everybody to go F themselves. You can put it in your head, memorize the freaking key. Oh yeah, my Bitcoin, I lost it on a boating accident. Tax that. That's the most gangster quote I have ever heard in my life, hence why it's pinned on my X account. If you're on X, be sure to retweet it or repost it. I appreciate it. Now, here's another bullish prediction he made, which I transcribed from a video. And I want to read this to you, and then I'm going to be sharing his latest insights and brand new article more recently published regarding that he believes the SEC is only ever going to approve the Bitcoin ETF and that ETH will not get that green light. So anyways, he says, because Bitcoin is just pure money, it's just as effective at 100,000 a coin as 10,000 a coin, and at a million a coin, it's just as effective, and at 10 million a coin is probably more compelling at 10 million a coin than 1 million or 100,000 a coin. Now, it's kind of universally scalable asset that gets less risky. The only thing that's going to change my opinion is when it was super risky and scary below 10,000, you were getting 100 to 200% a year annualized gains. And then it got a bit more understandable. Between 10,000 and 100,000, your gains go to 40 or 50% per year. And then at some point, they go to 30 and then 20. And in the extreme, if everybody in the world understood Bitcoin, it would be 20, 30, 40% of the wealth of the world. Check it, yo. So it would be $200 to $300 trillion in today's dollars. Let that sink in, bro. Because right now, the crypto market cap is less than 3 trillion. So you run the math. And when the price would be appreciating at that rate of global inflation in the fiat currency, referring to the US dollar, so if the gold inflation rate remains a 7, it would still remain a 7, and then it would appreciate a little bit more because the productivity of the people that adopt it as a treasury reserve asset. So long live the Giga Chad. Let me know your thoughts on that. Now, he also recently spoke regarding Ethereum not getting the same kind of spot ETF approval from the SEC. So I want to break this one down for you as well.
Which one's the best crypto asset? Well, Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Okay, what's the second best? There is no second best.
So here we go. Saylor said in the earnings call yesterday that Bitcoin is the one crypto asset that a publicly traded company can hold on its balance sheet and can capitalize upon. It is the one crypto asset that Wall Street firms are going to be able to sell on a spot ETF basis. The entire modern institutional asset economy, the options market, the securities market, the money manager system, the institutional mutual funds, the institutional ETFs, they're all going to be centered around Bitcoin as the digital property going forward.
I'm not saying I'm number one. I'm sorry, I lied. I'm number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Now, we all know MicroStrategy was the first publicly traded company to put the Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And since then, it set the blueprint, it set the precedent for other major companies to do the same, which actually happened like a domino effect, which is a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? For example, we even had a country, El Salvador, adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. We even had Tesla. We had, I guess he's connected with Elon, obviously, was his other company, SpaceX. Now you have other companies in other countries like Japan, etc., putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet, you got to remember there's a lot of very wealthy companies. Think of I hate Microsoft because I hate its founder, but nonetheless, think of companies like Microsoft, Apple, retailers like Walmart, online biggest marketplace in the world, Amazon. What if they were to adopt Bitcoin? They're sitting on all this excess cash at the end of the day, and they need to park it somewhere so that don't disappear like a melting ice cube, as Saylor once eloquently described keeping fiat in the bank. And we already know how he feels in regards to those who treat fiat as a store of value. May I remind you? Take it away, Saylor.
But like most of the people who are buying assets at some point want to sell the assets at a profit.
Is that true? Do you buy Bitcoin to specifically sell it at a profit, as that news interview lady shared to Michael Saylor? Let me know. Was your intention of buying Bitcoin to sell it at a profit? I'm just curious, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. Nothing wrong at all. I'm just curious, you guys specifically in the chat, let me know.
People that use fiat
Lovers.
currency as a store of value.
What do we call them? Let me know in the chat, family. Don't be shy. Don't be a stranger. This is a live and interactive show for a reason. I'm lighting the stage to step up the stream to the next level. If you're ready to take this up a couple of notches, let me know, broskies.
We call them poor. We call them poor. People.
And let me know regarding some of his predictions. And can you see a $300 trillion market cap in crypto, considering I think the all-time high was in the 3 trillion range. So he's ultimately saying we can do 100x what we've already achieved as the all-time high. Now, what if Bitcoin were to 100x from here? Then you're looking at that $6 million Bitcoin price. What if the dollar was to hyperinflate? Then you can start thinking about, whoa, Bitcoin can literally hit 100 million or 10x 100 million and hit $1 billion. Then Jurrien Timmer had a macro over at one of the larger asset management firms, Fidelity, $4.5 trillion asset manager. He predicted Bitcoin hitting $1 billion by 2038. How can that be? Well, that's if the dollar hyperinflated. That's if hyper-Bitcoinization is birthed due to the inflation or hyperinflation of the dollar. If the dollar literally collapsed, what do you think that's going to do? How do you think that's going to impact the Bitcoin price? Bitcoin is ultimately the opposite of the dollar. Bitcoin will do the opposite of what the dollar does. The dollar has a unalive sentence. It's destiny. Just as all fiat currency that come before it, it all returns to its original intrinsic value. Fact, right? Which is zero, because at the end of the day, it's a Ponzi. We all know that. So what's going to happen to Bitcoin when the dollar literally goes to zero? Oh my God, how can you even compare it to the US dollar? It would have no relevance. The dollar becomes the BitConnect coin, goes to zero. Right? So who knows? Maybe at that point, they can only compare Bitcoin to a more stable asset. Maybe gold. Who knows? Let me know your thoughts, Joe. But yes, many countries' currency has hyperinflated already. I look at the US dollar as the big boss. You know what I mean? And eventually, all that fiat is going to go to zero against the apex predator. Only a matter of time. You know what I mean? So again, purchasing power is mathematically guaranteed to increase in Bitcoin, and your purchasing power in the dollar is mathematically guaranteed to decrease in fiat monopoly money. So that's all you need to know. You'll be able to have freedom with the more Bitcoin you have. And if you're treating fiat currency as a store of value,
That use fiat currency.
we know what we call them. Come on now.
We call them poor. We call them poor.